study,
and play come together on a Windows 11 PC.
And for a limited time, college students get
The best of both worlds.
Get the Unreal College Deal. Everything you need to study and play with select Windows 11 PCs. Eligible students get a year of Microsoft 365 Premium and a year of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with a custom color Xbox wireless controller. Learn more at windows.com/student offer. While supplies last. Ends June 30th. Terms at aka.ms/collegepc.
Send Help is now streaming on Hulu and Hulu on Disney+.
We're somewhere in the Gulf of Thailand.
Getting us out of here should be your focus. I'm your boss. You work for me.
We're not in the office anymore.
It's bold, relentless, and endlessly rewatchable. Discover why critics give it 93% on Rotten Tomatoes.
You're so fired.
Oh, am I? No help is coming.
Send Help, rated R, now streaming on Hulu and Hulu on Disney+.
Hello, True Spies listeners. Welcome back to the True Spies Debrief. Here on the Debrief, we catch up with experts, ex-spies and espionage fanatics to explore what fascinates them about this secret world. If you like what you hear, subscribe to SPYSCAPE Plus for more exclusive debriefs at plus.spyscape.com. Ralf Little and David Eldridge are, respectively, the star and writer of a new theatrical production of The Spy Who Came In From the Cold, which is touring the UK this year. The play is an adaptation of John le Carré's 1963 espionage classic, which tells the story of Alec Leamas, a British operative who's sent behind the Iron Curtain to pose as a defector, while secretly working against a powerful East German intelligence officer. True Spies producer Joe Foley spoke to Ralf and David about bringing le Carré's world to life, the resonance of this story in the 21st century, and the meeting with the legendary author himself.
Ralf, David, welcome to the Debrief. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
So your stage version of The Spy Who Came In From the Cold is currently touring the UK. For people who aren't familiar with the story, could you just give us a quick overview between the two of you?
Oh, David, do you want to take this one, Dave?
Yeah, go on. I'll take this one as the adapter. Yeah. So basically, the story of The Spy Who Came In From the Cold is set in 1961 in Berlin and in London at the height of the Cold War, just at the time when the Berlin Wall has just gone up. And it's the story of Alec Leamas, who is head of the Berlin station, and his best agent's been killed, and he's come back to London, resolved to packing the spying, the dirty business of spying, as John le Carré called it, and coming from the cold. But basically, Control, head of the circus, or MI6, wants Alec Leamas to go back into the field for one final mission. And basically, the story of the novel and the play takes it from there. And we follow Alec on his journey to try and take down the head of the East German intelligence service, the Abteilung Munt, and Alec's belief that they're out to frame him. But there's a big kind of spoke in the wheel, which is that the one thing that neither the circus nor Alec reckoned on was Alec's meeting someone and falling in love. So I think that's a pretty good potted version of the story of the book and the play.
So, Ralf, this was a bit of a dream role for you, right? Your le Carré love affair goes back a very long way. Oh,
yeah, I was delighted. I've been heard to say on various TV shows and in interviews that my Auntie Jill, my formidable Auntie Jill, one of several formidable aunties I've got that were all English teachers, sort of shoved the le Carré novels in front of my face when I was about 15 years old and said, read those. And when Auntie Jill tells you to read something, you don't dare not. But I was absolutely delighted. You know, I loved them. I hoovered them up when I was a teenager. And then, to be honest, largely not forgot about them, but you know, something where you think, wow, I read that when I was a kid and it was fantastic, and it's just lodged somewhere in the back of your mind. So then this came along, and I actually chose not to revisit the book and not to watch not to watch the Richard Burton film, and not to watch the original stage adaptation either. I discussed with David and and the director Jeremy and his assistant Joe. I discussed with them about whether I should revisit them, and they were all of the opinion that, you know what, I'm coming to deliver a story that is David's version, David's adaptation for the stage. And they said, look, if you want to go and research more deeply, do, but this is what we have to deliver. So I decided not to, and I'm basically working entirely from the memory of a 15-year-old, which is pretty hazy, but David's script, and I stand by that decision.
So, David, this is your adaptation. This is your baby. Take me back to the start of the project. How did it all come together?
Well, it came together with a lunch back at the end of the summer, early autumn 2018, where the director, Jeremy Herring, asked me if he could take me out to lunch. And you sort of know that there's probably going to be some reason for that, or that he's going to pitch me something. And we had a nice lunch, and he said, a way into it, do you know John le Carré's The Spy Who Came In From the Cold? And I did. It was a novel that I'd read a couple of times, once in my very early 20s and once in my late 30s. And he said, what do you think about the idea of adapting it? And so I was really excited, but it had been a while since I read it. So I had a look at the novel again, and immediately it just felt like a really, really exciting thing to do in the theatre. I mean, Ralph's character, Alec Lemus, has got this brilliant sort of journey, this kind of Voight-esque kind of anti-hero who goes through all sorts of stuff. The novel itself is full of these brilliantly dramatic two-handed encounters, and then towards the end of the book you've got this kind of thrilling sort of tribunal scene. Court scenes always work so brilliantly in the theatre, and a possibility of doing something really theatrical and brilliant with the Berlin Wall right at the end of the show. So yeah, it was more about not appearing to sound too keen in a way, But yeah, no, it seemed like a no-brainer. I mean, the other thing I'd say is that when we had that lunch and I reread the novel, the Salisbury poisonings had just happened, and there's a thing in the novel where right at the beginning, when Lemus meets Control, where Control says something along the lines of, how can it be that, you allow your enemy or opponent to be more ruthless than you are? And that seemed really, really an important and resonant idea at the time and now, and if indeed you're just as ruthless as your opponent, if, the democratic West becomes just as ruthless as maybe some of its more totalitarian adversaries on the global stage, do we become in any way sort of as morally squalid, as they are, and I thought those were really, really prescient and timely ideas then. And I think, unfortunately, they are now too,
If I'm not mistaken, you had to run your ideas by the man himself. Is that right?
Well, I had to meet the man himself. Yeah, it was a bit of a memorable. It was another lunch, and in fact, actually, when I met him, he wasn't that interested in, initially at least, in my ideas for adapting his novel. It was quite a le Carré-esque sort of encounter, actually, in a sort of a corner of a sort of slightly dimly lit French restaurant in Soho in a February afternoon. But what he was interested in doing, I think, was running the ruler over me a bit. We sort of had that awkward moment where you meet and the waiter brings water and menus, but no one's quick to order. And yeah, he sort of was interested about me. He was obviously sort of working out whether he could trust me and sort of getting the cut of my jib. And it probably only lasted about 10 minutes, but it felt like it lasted an hour. And then there was a good moment when he and his son Simon exchanged glances, and he said, "Well, look, I don't know about you, David, but I'm not writing this afternoon. So shall we have a nice bottle of French white wine?" And I sort of thought, well, I don't know what I've done, but I've passed a test of some sort here. And then we started to have a bit of a laugh and talk about all of Le Carré's obsessions. You know, he talked about being a mediocre spy. He told excellent stories about Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor. He talked about politics and Brexit, you know, and things like that he was passionate about. And he was generally excellent, you know. He was very, very supportive. You know, he was very keen that I should liberate myself from the novel, you know, and to sort of find a way of making it my own. And also, I think that, you know, they were very generous. You know, they said that they loved the theatre and they had a lot of expertise in turning the novels into TV shows and films, but they didn't really know very much about the theatre, and that they would be a bit guided by us, you know. So, yeah, it was great to meet him, and it was definitely a situation of meeting your hero, and your hero absolutely not disappointing. And in fact, he was everything that I hoped he would be.
This summer, soccer is here, and so are the watch parties. And Uber Eats has your game day essentials covered with 30% off orders from Aldi, Kroger, and Dollar General. Everything you need to keep your crowd happy, delivered straight to your door. Chips, dips, fresh ingredients, and more. Order in so you can lock in for the games. 30% off your grocery order, only on Uber Eats for a limited time.
This episode is brought to you by San Pellegrino Ciao. A gift from Italy to your home. San Pellegrino Ciao is a flavored sparkling water made with real fruit juice, finished with a pinch of Sicilian salt for a perfectly balanced taste. So which flavor will you choose? Peach, lime, blood orange, cherry, or maybe the all-new limoncello? Crafted in Italy with 0 grams of added sugar. San Pellegrino Ciao. Buy it now.
Well, speaking of people who were everything you hoped they would be, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit here and ask, you know, what are you looking for in an actor in the Lemus part?
Well, I think that
one who's available.
I think
first and foremost.
I think an actor that's available, but also crucially the qualities that Ralph's got. I think, which is that you know that an actor who is kind of both flinty and steely. But also kind of believes that they've kind of got kind of an emotional vulnerability, maybe that they've been sitting on or had to sit on for a while. So that when Liz Gold comes along, that you can see that there's this coldness that's kind of melted, you know, maybe even against their will. So I think they're the main qualities, and you know, they're qualities that sort of Ralf has in spades. If you don't mind me making you blush a bit for a minute, Ralf. I think Ralf has enormous natural empathy as well, which is a brilliant quality, because I think, you know, one of the things that Alec Lemus does is he sometimes tests the limit of an audience's sympathy. You know, he's a genuine anti-hero, I think. You know, sometimes, you know, you kind of take a bit of a look at what he does and what he says, you know. But I think if you kind of have that kind of lovely empathetic affinity with the character that, you know, you get with Ralf, then, you know, that's a brilliant kind of head start. Yeah. Lovely contradictory qualities, the kind of vulnerability and the toughness.
It did occur to me actually. Thanks, David. It did occur to me as the rehearsal process went on, and we started to get it on its feet and perform it, that Lemus as a character and David's writing as a character, exactly like David says, he's so. You know, he's very no nonsense, flinty, I think David just said, and he is, and it's kind of joyous in that old school, almost noir style to just watch somebody who just pulls no punches ever. But then it did occur to me that for me, the more contrast between that and then how much he is head over heels bowled over by Liz Gold. For me, in my opinion, and with my choices, I felt that would resonate with an audience more, because you see somebody who's just sort of beaten down, broken by the system, disgusted by it at this point, just has nothing but disdain for the entire spy game, and has nothing, no friends, no love, no vulnerability, because you can't fall in love because you need to be vulnerable to fall in love. And then he does. And the more contrast between that happening to him and the rest of his interactions during the play, for me, I thought that was where the sort of the beating heart of it was. So that's what I've leaned into.
So as an actor, how did you find that Cold War spy headspace, that psychology? I mean, because you've already said you didn't watch the Burton film. You've deliberately avoided having anything that's going to colour your interpretation of the part. What did you draw on to get inside that sort of quite dark, conflicted psychology?
Look, this is going to sound like quite a trite answer, but the script, it's all there on the page. David's a brilliant writer, and it's a brilliant adaptation. And I'm sure David can speak more to this. But one of the ways in which he's had to be able to truncate the story and fit things in that spread out through the novel or a film is to have certain characters have certain pieces direct addressed to the audience, certain moments that we realize are happening inside. We realize that they are happening inside Lemus's head, but it's all there, and it's all written down. And when something's well written, you'd be surprised how little you have to draw on. It's just the words are there, make them make sense. Do it well, deliver the story. And if something's well written, and this is fabulously written, it kind of takes care of itself. So yeah, I mean, I not to sort of do myself down. I could whip you up some sort of nonsense answer about yes, well, I really delve deep into the psycho, but I didn't. I just it's all written down, and it's written beautifully. So it makes my job very easy.
Yeah, of course. Well, that's interesting, David. Did you struggle with that when you were writing it, or adapting it rather, that sense of interiority that is so prevalent in the book? So much of it does happen inside Lemus's head. I mean, did you struggle with how to get that on the stage in front of the audience without it feeling cheesy or overdone?
Well, I think it's the challenge of any book to drama adaptation, to be honest, whether it's book to play or book to telly or book to film. I think the thing that really helped me with this one was like not just I thought that like exploring point of view in the theatre and kind of like allowing Alec to have the privilege of a direct relationship with the audience might be useful in terms of like letting the audience in and the audience feeling close to Alec and what he's going through. But also I was really keen in the adaptation that the audience felt like they were getting Smiley in a way that was really impactful. One of the kind of interesting and slightly perverse challenges of adapting the novel is that George Smiley is hardly in the novel. But actually, because as an audience coming to it in 2024, 25, 26, we've had all the other novels and had the TV and film adaptations, and we've all got these images of Alec Guinness and Gary Oldman with the glasses in our heads, shortly to be joined by Matthew McFadden, I'm sure. I felt that like if Smiley wasn't in the play more, the audience would feel disappointed about that. So actually thinking about getting closer to Alec Lemus and also sort of starting to think about how Smiley could be in the play more than he is in the novel meant that I sort of arrived quite quickly at the idea of not just sort of being in Lemus's head, but also that kind of Lemus kind of thinking about Smiley, his favourite teacher at the circus when he was a young intelligence officer, and asking Smiley all of the kind of unanswered questions they had as he tried to make sense of exactly what is going on in the operation, and where Lemus gradually starts to smell a rat and mistrust what's going on around him and to him. So it actually, instead of it feeling like a thing that was kind of difficult or a point of neurosis, actually kind of Lemus's interiority became quite a fun part of making the play, particularly, you know, when he was talking to Smiley. So it wasn't something I bashed my head against the laptop over particularly. It was something I kind of rather relished and enjoyed. I loved kind of writing all the scenes between Lemus and Smiley that are in Lemus's head.
The script is one thing, but then, you know, we are talking about a stage play, so obviously there's a visual aspect in the set, in how it's dressed, in the lighting. And, you know, we often talk on this podcast, or we have recently, about kind of Graham Greene's Greenland, that sort of shadowy psychic space that all his novels tend to sort of share and live in. I mean, my question to you would be, how did you and your team go about visualising the atmosphere of Le Carré land for the play?
Well, I think that there's kind of lots of different answers to that question. I mean, I think firstly, like, it does come from the script in that, like I deliberately made the script something that was very fluid, that you could almost do without many props or much scenery. I mean, we of course do have some kind of like some props and stuff that help with the visual storytelling within the scenes, but like, you could do this play with like just the actors and the Berlin Wall. You know, you could just do it quite easily like that. And I suppose the reason to that is not just that you can kind of tell the story at a pace, but also that it can have the fluidity of the speed of thought and someone's mind, of being in someone's mind. So that's the first thing. I think as well, you know, that it means that with the lighting and the kind of acting, that you can move quite effortlessly from being in these quite real scenes in Bayswater or in the GDR or wherever, and then, you know, have the actors turn out and the lighting changes and the sound's a bit weirder, and then you very, very, very definitely feel like you're in a more liminal, subjective space of Lemus's mind. So but you just have to have a world that you create that can hold all of that. Do you know what I mean? Rather than feel like you're limited by the stage world that you can construct, I suppose.
I always feel when I read a script, I mean, this isn't an absolute rule of thumb, but it's not a bad maxim as a jumping off point, that you can tell when somebody is an accomplished writer if they have the confidence to just let the dialogue. And David's script is so, there's very few actual stage directions in it. You know, it's like the dialogue's here. Very occasionally there's a very specific, this happens, but basically you can take the script and stage it however you want. And ours is really relatively minimal, I would say, but has that absolute sort of noir-y feel to it, which is just so much fun to do. And I get to wear a trench coat, so everybody's happy.
I'm wondering, you know, both of you being so immersed in this sort of Le Carré world, what do you find are the key differences? And not so much in terms of the visuals or the iconography, but psychologically, between Le Carré's work and the sort of other big spy franchises, you know, your Bonds, your Mission Impossibles, you know, what's the big USP there for people who haven't read Le Carré and are intrigued by this conversation?
I think David will have a much more interesting answer than me, but I think that I think it's fascinating. I'm fascinated by the difference, the tone in tonality between Ian Fleming's Bond and John le Carré's, well, Smiley or Lemus or le Carré's world, in that, you know, we all know that Bond is glamour, gadgets, and all the world that we're very familiar with. But also in Bond, there's almost always a very, very, very clear good guy and bad guy. Bond is on the side of the good guys and he gets the job done. And there's always a bad guy who's trying to take over the world by some means or other. And as David alluded to right at the start of our chat today, Le Carré is much more nuanced and kind of real world. And I think you can feel in Le Carré's writing his absolute disdain and disgust that Lemus, in fact, has, the character has in the play, in the story. It drips off Le Carré's writing, the absolute, and both Fleming and Le Carré were in the intelligence service, and Yeah, I think Le Carré's discomfort with the moral compromises that have to be made on both sides. And as David said, you know, if you have to be as ruthless as the totalitarian enemy, are you any different, really? Or are you just as morally squalid? And I'm particularly interested and fascinated by the fact that you can feel that Fleming was like, what an exciting world, and Le Carré was like, what an absolute squalid cesspit of an enterprise this whole thing is. And that's really good fun to play.
I agree with that 100%. And also kind of on a human level, you know, like, you know, Bond falls into bed easily with these kind of glamorous women, you know, and I love the fact that, like, Alec unexpectedly falls for this kind of young Jewish librarian, and it's really awkward and complicated and a bit messy and full of heartache. You know, it couldn't kind of, from a kind of a, you know, kind of human kind of point of view, you know, kind of couldn't be a kind of more of a polar opposite. I also sort of think that, like, I love the kind of modern, like, often deeply cynical black humor that runs through Le Carré and this novel, and that we've definitely tried to kind of capture a bit in the play of the novel. You know, it's definitely kind of a smarter, shinier, gaggy type humor, you know, that operates in the world of Bond and Fleming and all of that. I like the fact that it's kind of weirder and darker in Le Carré too.
Yes, I mean, I have some very, very bone dry asides, which are really good fun, because you wouldn't. It's funny on the surface of it. There are not a lot. I don't think David will mind me saying there's not a lot of jokes in this play, except once you do it for a little while, you realise that there kind of are. They're just a little layered, and you're looking at somebody who's just always one step ahead, but so tired of everyone and everything around him that he's just dry as he's like, he's a Jacob's cream cracker of a man with his humor. It's just, and I'm really enjoying playing all those too. I'm finding more and more of them as we go along. So yes, exactly. There's no gags. There's no sort of flippant, glib gags like you might expect from Bond. But there's definitely darker, slightly, yeah, like David says, weirder moments of humor in there, and it's been really fun to find those too.
This episode is brought to you by Fox One. Watch all 104 matches of the FIFA World Cup live in 4K for just $19.99 a month with 3 days free. Build your own multi-view, choose up to 3 streams, and follow player spotlights. Stay on top of every moment with live stats, highlights, and instant replays. The FIFA World Cup, streaming live on Fox One. Offers are subject to change. See fox.com for complete terms and conditions.
This episode is brought to you by Perfect Bistro Cat Food. Hey guys, today I'm interviewing my cat about his perfect bistro food. Percy, you seem to be a big Perfect Bistro fan. Care to comment? Totally. What do you like about it? You love the high-quality ingredients? And the delicious flavors, of course. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Listen to Percy, guys. Visit perfectbistro.com to try it for your cat.
I do wonder if the difference between Carré and Fleming comes down to their actual experience of working in the intelligence services, because Fleming was, you know, wartime. He was out in New York and Washington, largely living it up, whereas Le Carré was, I think he was stationed in Hamburg for a little bit. It's all a lot more kind of, and also, you know, later on in the Cold War, when there's less daring do afoot. I wonder if those two different experiences have really shaped how it works. I mean, it's very hard to imagine a Le Carré character swanning about a cocktail party, for example.
No. I have a line actually where somebody says, I think I met you at a pizza party. And Lemus just with utter disdain says, I have never been to a pizza party. He won't even go to a pizza party, never mind a cocktail bar.
Excellent.
Yeah, I mean, it's such an emblematic difference, isn't it, with Bond, that in that scene you're talking about, Ralph, that like the kind of the communist guy that's trying to sort of pick Lemus up, like recounts the story of not having the money to pay for a girl. You know, it's definitely not the world of Fleming and Bond.
Yes. Yeah.
So just to finish up, the show is currently touring the UK, finishing up in August. Are there any plans to take it international?
Well, you never know. Not that I'm aware of at the moment. But yeah, no, I mean, I hope that the play will get an opportunity to be done internationally. I just think for the time being, we've been concentrating on having a very nice time bringing it to audiences in Chichester, London, and now throughout the UK. You know, I mean, it's a pretty special thing, I think, kind of taking this story up and down the UK. I mean, one of the things that I realise is just how massive John le Carré is, you know, and from kind of Sheffield this week to kind of, you know, Cardiff last week to kind of Liverpool next week, you know, people turn up for le Carré, you know. I mean, obviously they're really, really interested in the work that we've done, and people absolutely love and adore Ralph. But I think that probably we can all agree that, you know, John le Carré and his book, it's kind of the star of the show, you know, and people are really mad for it, you know, and yeah, I mean, I do really hope that, you know, that the play does get a kind of an international life. You know, you hear all these crazy stories of people travelling huge distances to see the play on occasion, you know, because they want to see it, and it's an opportunity to see le Carré on stage for the first time. So we'll see. Let's keep our fingers crossed, you know, and touch wood and all of that stuff, I think.
I agree. I think generously, I'd say generously 1% of the audience is coming to see me and the rest are coming to see le Carré, and I'm very comfortable with that. It's fine.
Well, I think it's a bit more than 1%.
No, I'm happy with those numbers, David. I'm happy.
Just leave us with this. Do you think, you know, given what we've spoken about today, I mean, it does seem like a very British sensibility, you know, the disdain for pizza parties, the sort of drab post-imperialism. Do you think it would translate? If say you did it in the US, do you think American audiences would get it in the same way that British audiences do?
Oh, I think the Americans love it. I mean, yeah, I mean, you know, there were kind of vast numbers of Americans in London over Christmas and in January, as there always are, and it often felt like the theatre was half full of Americans. Yeah, I think that actually it really, you know, they're in a very, very strange, complicated place in the United States at the moment, you know, and I think that actually that kind of easy kind of city on a hill optimism is looking a bit kind of beaten up and tarnished at the moment. And I think that the kind of slightly kind of wearied, more cynical le Carré tone probably feels a bit more resonant over there than it has for a while, I'd say. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong about that, but I kind of feel quite certain about that, actually. Yeah.
Ralph, any final thoughts?
Well, I was going to say before about when when you asked and David was talking about it, you know, the further life for the play. Something I think that is worth mentioning is that it's been on at Chichester, it's been on at Soho Place, and now it's on tour. What I think speaks volumes about the quality of David's adaptation, le Carré's writing, the story being so enduring, is each one of those productions was markedly different. Admittedly, I didn't see it in Chichester and Soho Place, again, by choice, but they were markedly different in the way they were staged, for one thing, because Chichester is a thrust stage, the Soho Place is in the round, and the tour is for more traditional proscenium arch theatres. So it feels, I mean, it's lovely for me to be able to do this tour, because this is sort of the most traditional, accessible. This is the version that you can put into theatres, most theatres all around the world. And I guess that was it, really, just to say that now that we've done this and it seems to be working, and I'm incredibly proud of what we're doing. I guess this is my final thought. I'm incredibly proud of the show. I love the show. It's like stepping onto stage it's like stepping onto a roller coaster and going, right, I'm going on this ride and it's my job to take the audience with me. It really is. And somebody said, one of the cast said to me the other day, they said, in your second scene, when you say this, what happens then? I was like, I have no idea. You have to give me a minute to think about that. And they said, what do you mean? I said, I literally step on and start speaking and let the story happen. And it's sort of a bit terrifying, really, because you go on this ride, and hopefully, now that we've set up this traditional proscenium march version, lots of other people will have a chance to come along for the ride too.
Fantastic. We'll leave it there. Ralf, David, thank you very, very much for your time, and I can't wait to see the play.
Thank you for listening to this week's Debrief. We hope you enjoyed the conversation between Ralf Little and David Eldridge and True Spies showrunner Joe Foley. More debriefs are available exclusively to SPYSCAPE Plus subscribers. You'll also be able to access other premium series, like The Razumov Files, our ambitious retelling of Joseph Conrad's Under Western Eyes. And for true crime fans, there's The Great James Bond Car Robbery, the story of the hunt for James Bond's most notorious set of wheels. Subscribers also get new episodes of True Spies early and ad-free. Subscribe to SPYSCAPE Plus at plus.spyscape.com. Disclaimer. The views expressed in this podcast are those of the subject. These stories are told from their perspective, and their authenticity should be assessed on a case-by-case basis. If you're enjoying this podcast, please click now to give it a 5-star rating or leave a review. Ratings and reviews help people discover the podcast and help us bring you more great stories. And if you have some time, why not forward the podcast to a friend?